This is Larry the Barberman, and today I am at Salon International 2017. I'm here with Alison Scattergood, who is a female barber. She is also a member of the Barber Council, and I'm here to find out her story. So Alison, thank you for taking time out of your time over at the actual exhibition centre to share your story with me.
Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome. So as I understand your story today, from the age of 14 you was a hairdresser. At the age of 22 you swapped over to being a barber, and a little time after that you became a lecturer at the East Durham College.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's right. Started off in hairdressing, went over to barbering, yeah.
So tell me your story from the very beginning to get into East Durham College and what you actually do at East Durham College.
Always wanted to be a hairdresser in the barbering industry, things like that, from being really small. Started in a salon when I was 14 as a Saturday girl, doing holidays and things, covering, and then at 16 I did a YTS route in the salon that I was actually in from 14. Stayed there till I was about 21, trained up as a hairdresser and also men's hairdressing, so I always cut men's hair. I was always really ambitious, wanting to do stuff, so I ended up leaving the salon at 21, went and did a short stint with Steiner on cruise ships, cruise liners, which I really enjoyed, but was very, very homesick. Came back from the cruise liner and decided to set up being self-employed, which I did. Also had my own salon, and then once I'd done that, I also went back to college to do my teaching. I did my first teaching qualification at 21. Did some part-time hours there, covering for people while they were off. And then, like I say, I worked between being self-employed, having my own salon, loved the teaching in the salon, trained up different apprentices to, you know, my own stylists and things. And that really gave us sort of my passion to want to get back into teaching, which is what I did. So for quite a few years, I did teaching part-time where I was still self-employed, doing my own thing and my teaching together. And then I realised that I would like to do the teaching full-time, which is what I went into. And then when I did do that, I've been at East Durham College for many years now, where I sort of got slightly, not pushed into the barbering because that's something I'd always like to do, but I went back and did barbering qualifications rather than just hairdressing ones. I wanted to do the barbering quals. So where I work, depending on what you're qualified in, like they won't let the hairdressing lecturers teach barbering. You've got to be qualified in something before you can teach it. So I had all the barbering qualifications. I had experience in barbering because I've worked with barbers in the past in salons too. So that was what I did. At first I taught a little bit of hairdressing and barbering, but then when barbering got so big, barbering's my baby now, as in I've got that many students. I coordinate all the level 2, level 3 barbering courses at ETC, do lots of stuff with the students, competitions, you know, shows, things like this. So that's where I am. I also work in a barber shop on a weekend. So I work in Durham City, and I do that 1 day a week on a Saturday, just because I think it's really important to still be industry. You know, you've got to be in industry, especially if you're teaching. So it's a good balance of being able to relay both sides of the job to your students, you know.
Turning the kind of theory into practical and staying in tune with what is practical
totally
right now.
So you can totally relate that to your students, where if we're talking about how well they need to be trained and what they need to be ready like for industry, I can relate to where I work and tell them about the professional standards and things like that. So it works both ways. It's really good that I'm in industry and teaching as well.
Okay, so you've got very strong views on standards. You're also affiliated to the Barber Council, and you're kind of pushing forward for legislation within the barbering community, if you like. Give me your take on...
I've always been really passionate about it because I believe in standards, and I believe in that our area and our industry is worth legislation, and it should be regulated, because, you know, if you're a nurse, you've got to be on a register. If you're giving out injections, things like that. If you're a chiropodist, even a taxi driver needs licenses these days. And, you know, we working with the public, and obviously even in hairdressing, I always believed it in hairdressing because you're working with chemicals and things like that. But barbering, you know, you're working with open blade razors, you're doing, you know, hot towel shaves, and anybody at any time can set up and do that. And I know that there's some amazing barbers out there who've been shop floor trained and they don't have an official qualification to say that they, you know, qualified, and they're still really good. But I also know of some that aren't, and I think that really needs to be policed. I think that, you know, it's like if you had, I don't know, an electrician, plumber or somebody doing your stuff, it would scare me if they came and they just had no qualifications at all, which, again, it's getting the balance, but I think it should be regulated when you're, you know, using razors and things like that on members of the public. It's just a really strong passion of mine, and I believe that our industry needs that. I believe in it, and it's such a high-end industry. I mean, the size of Salon International here, this is attracting over 35,000 people, and to think that that area still isn't standardised where you need a qualification and legislation is quite bizarre to me, you know. So that's what I'd like to push with the Barber Council to the government, is that way I think we should definitely be heading.
Okay, it's funny that you say about builders and plumbers, they can only destroy your house, whereas having an open blade, you can destroy someone's health and ultimately take their life.
Totally. I mean, it's, you know, blood and cross-infection, everything, you know, it's a big area to look at. So yes, that's why I'm passionate about it. I believe it should be.
And tell me exactly what it is you do at the Barber Council.
I sit on the board. Like I say, I'm a member of the bar. I used to be a member of the Hair Council as well, when the Hair Council was my thing, and then I just moved over to the Barber Council. They invited me on. Obviously, I represent education, and I'll take forward to them about students, and obviously the new ones coming through. So this year, I'm currently sort of piloting something with my students where they'll get sort of a registration to be a little bit cheaper. When you're a student, you get a student discount. So by the end of their qualification, as well as getting a City and Guilds certificate to say they've passed, they'll also get a certificate of registration with the Barber Council with a discounted price. So it won't be full price for a certificate. And by me doing that, that's exposing the Barber Council to students, and I talk to them about it all the time in sessions about, you know, what it's about, how passionate, and it's give them an insight into how important it is, because even when students first come here, I think they get quite surprised that there is no legislation. So once I'm telling them about it and telling them how important I think it is to be registered, because your clients come first, and I think if they're working into a salon and seeing that their stylist, their barber is registered and you display a certificate on the wall, that's really important, and that's what I want to get over to my students too. So that's what I'm doing this year.
Okay, so you're also a consultant for City and Guilds on their curriculum. Tell me a little bit about what you do there.
I am. I do a lot of work with City and Guilds. Really proud to be a consultant for City and Guilds. Worked on qualifications, worked on the tech-back qualifications, worked on grading criteria for the apprenticeship. So I come down to London quite a lot to head office and do lots of stuff with City and Guilds. Contributed to the latest textbooks. I've got a write-up in the latest level 2 textbook about the industry and passion and how to, you know, work towards where you want to be in life. Done stuff with portfolios and things. Some of my work's featured on the portfolios that's coming out this year, learners' journals. But also I'm part of the industry board for City and Guilds. Now, there's been a hairdressing industry board for quite a few years, and there's never been a barbering one of its own. So Adam Sloan, who's the chief exec, was pushing for that, and he ended up getting permission through City and Guilds, and they actually set it up, which is just about a year and a half to 2 years ago, and they invited me on, obviously representing education again, and that is a really proud thing for me to be part of as well, where we try to take the industry forward, you know, trying to raise the standards where, you know, students are coming out of college with better standards, because colleges do really get knocked in the industry, because some colleges obviously don't train to, you know, a great standard, and some do. So I want to try and raise that standard for all colleges, because where I work and what we do for City and Guilds is really good, and we have an amazing, I couldn't do what I do if it wasn't for the amazing team I work with, and we all City and Guilds you know, representatives, where that's our award body and that's who we work with, and we just want to try and encourage other colleges to get up there, which is why I'm part of the industry board, to try and take that forward with the rest of the team. So I do quite a bit for City and Guilds.
Okay, so all your contributions to the barbering industry were recognised by master barbers in the sense that you received an award. Tell me what that award was.
I did. That was an absolute lovely surprise. Didn't have a clue, didn't have to apply for anything, nothing. I was a member of the British Barbers, and Chris Moon, who's also another British barber, was actually coming down to the college one night to do a little demonstration for my students and to visit us. We set the presentation up, that went underway, and then he just said he had a little surprise for us, and he actually presented us with the first British female British Master Barber Award. So it was quite an emotional night because my students were there. I was all tearful because it was such a shock, such a surprise. Didn't have a clue that it was going to happen. And that was for my contribution to the barbering industry, which was really, really nice from Anthony and Tony Copeland. Couldn't have thanked them enough. That was back in 2015. So it's mounted on the college salon wall there on a big, plaque. So that's something that'll stay special to us as well. So that was another really great achievement of my career. Thank you.
Okay. That was something that was kind of awarded to you without you even knowing.
I didn't know a thing about it. Yeah, I didn't. I mean, because some things, certain sort of titles and that you might be able to apply for. I didn't have a clue I was getting that one. That was a nice surprise for me.
Okay. So apart from awards that you've been given without you actually knowing, you've actually been a WOL finalist. You've actually been in competition for the breast shaver and a couple of other competitions. Just briefly tell me about these barber battles, for lack of a better phrase.
Over the past few years, I get heavily involved in competitions with my students. So I've always sort of put students in for competitions. Then we went through a phase where students were like, do you not fancy doing some competitions too? So, we can support you. And I did some. I got into the WOL final of Simon Shaw's WOL Barber of the Year, the Search for a Star. And I did that a few years ago at Salon International. I did that live. Also, a few years ago, as part of the British Barbers Association, I applied for different competitions and I got through the finals of designing and creating patterns in the hair, and I had to do a live final in the boxing ring at Barber Connected Celtic Manor. So that was a good one. And Pro Hair Live, I got through to the Britain's Best Shave of the regionals, and I was there for them finals as well. So I've done quite a lot myself, which has been great. Great experience to be able to share with your students, because you know what they're feeling like when they're doing competitions too. But recently I've sort of took a little bit of a step back because I'm moving on to other things as well, where I still want my students to be really passionate about competitions, and I like to watch them grow and do well in them, because now I'm doing other things to do with my education and stuff like that. So I've sort of left them the way they are for now. You never know, I might do another one at some point soon.
So there was a turning point today in terms of education with a big organisation called the Fellowship, which in some respects is the leading body or authority in hairdressing. Tell me what that...
That was amazing. I applied to be a member of the Fellowship on an individual basis earlier this year, and I wasn't sure if they would accept us or not. I'm actually part of the Men's Hairdressing Federation as well, and I know that they're part of the Fellowship, and I knew a little bit about them, so I thought it's an amazing thing, the Fellowship. I just thought I'd love to be up there with them, Anyway, I went down to Members Night and I got marked really well the night of Members Night, and then they invited me back to do an education slot. Now, Fellowship have never ever had a sort of a college or an education slot on stage, so that was the kind of thing that they asked me if I would do. So I was absolutely buzzing about that, to sort of be the first lecturer taking students and things like that. So this weekend has been a really big weekend for us. I brought a team of us down. Again, I've done everybody's hair and worked on that, but I couldn't have done it on my own backstage. I had another team member from EDC, Julie Williams, who's an amazing makeup artist and things like that, who helped us with it. And then I brought students. I bring students to be my models, because obviously colleges are budgeted, so we can't pay for really high profile professional models. So we use our students, and it's brilliant because it also gives the students an amazing experience to be at salon, because they're actually barbering students, so they want to be here, they want to see things, and then they're doing it from both sides. We did our presentation, they rehearsed, and we got really, really good feedback when we came off stage. So, we feel really, really proud that we've represented EDC, we've represented education, represented City and Guilds, talked about my role as the Men's Hairdressing Federation, because I'm a technical ambassador for that. So it's covered so much, but to be the first to do that as Fellowship, it's just absolutely the pinnacle, really. I mean, you can't go any bigger than Fellowship, can you? So it's brilliant.
An achievement to come down from the northeast and do that on the stage in London.
It is.
Probably one of the stages with the biggest
artists, creative artists, and it's amazing. I always, love to watch what's going on the Fellowship stage when we hear it salon over the years. So to actually be part of that this year has just been amazing.
So Alison, when you was a child, you suffered from a really bad disease, eye cancer. This is something that you're involved in. Tell me how you're implementing this with your barbering to now help younger people who suffered from the same cancer that you did.
Well, I've been an ambassador for the Childhood Eye Cancer Trust for quite a few years now because I suffered from eye cancer myself as a baby. I was diagnosed with it at 6 weeks old. I had to have my left eye removed at 10 weeks old, which was quite a traumatic decision for my parents, but it was a case of whether if they did that, either that or, it's saving your life. So I've never really known any different. Was brought up blind in one eye, had to have an artificial eye all my life. But never ever, affected my career. And then when I came into the barbering world and, profiles started to grow, I still didn't tell anybody. I didn't really want anybody to know because for me, it wasn't about that. It was about the job I do. And I wanted to be recognised for my work in education and things like that. So even the guys, I've been friends with Mike for a long time and other barbers, and it wasn't something I ever mentioned, talked about, and I kept everything behind the scenes, what I did for the charity. I did lots of work behind the scenes. My story came to the fore a couple of years ago when the charity asked us if they would share my story, which I, kindly said that I would, and then it went massive on Facebook, which at first was a little shock for me because they shared my story. I didn't put anything on, and then I just got so much response from families, even in America and stuff, who have had children, have suffered from the same thing, and they found that seeing somebody be able to do what they've done in their career inspired them because some of their kids were still quite young and they really weren't sure what the future would hold for them. And that's when I had sort of the chat with my family and said, look, I think maybe I'm at the stage in my life, I'm in my 40s now, like, to go public and to sort of promote the charity a little bit more through my social media sites, maybe to make people a little bit more aware of it. So I just started to share the story myself. And that's when the response from everybody, was amazing. And then I've done that for the last few years. I organise charity events. We've raised lots of money for Checked. It's a really small charity, so they do need, all the support they can get. Main thing for me was about raising awareness as well as money, because when I did bring it to the fore, so many people didn't know at all about eye cancer and how dangerous it can be and that it can be really fatal, And then Mike contacted us, and like I say, I was so, shocked that me and Mike being friends in such a small world, because I know of people who suffered from it through social media, but I'd never ever actually met anybody else in my life who's had it, because it's still really quite a rare form of cancer. So when Mike told us about his young daughter Alice, that was just our way to, we decided we need to work together on raising awareness, money, and help the charity and help other families. So because we're both in the same industry and we do so much work within the industry, we both work in education, we both have our own things, we've got a lot of friends and colleagues in the area, that for us it was something that, it was a no-brainer that we would do something together in the barbering industry, some kind of show, some kind of event where we can get, everybody together as a barbering community, hairdressing community, and see what support we can get from that and raise money, raise awareness and work together. So that's what we're planning on doing next year. So that's our big thing coming up.
Okay. Well, I'm going to bring in Mike shortly so you can explain exactly what it is to the barbering community you intend to do to help people that have suffered as you have, even though, until you mentioned the eye cancer, I would never know that you've got one eye, which is
I know, and it's quite a big thing to sit and talk about it and admit that, because, all my life I was always very, private. My parents were very private. Obviously, they only had to let some people know schools and jobs. Me really, really close friends knew, but nobody else did. And I know the likes of, Mike and other people who we've spoken to in the industry said that they were really quite shocked when it came about. It's not something that you totally go out and talk about unless you maybe hear of somebody else who's suffering from it, and then you say that, because it's a big thing. I think it's more, for me, I'm in a little bit of a different position to Mike, where for me it's me as Mike, their parents, and I know from what my parents will say, it was more about what they went through, back in the day. Now we've got lots further with treatments and chemotherapy and stuff like that. For my parents, they were told, the eye had to be removed. If it wasn't, it would spread to the next eye. And then obviously the next place it goes is the optic nerve to the brain. And they said to my parents, if she lives till she's 10-year-old, then she should be, out of the woods. So for me, I think that is I don't know how my parents dealt with that. But for me, my boys have had to be checked because it is a hereditary genetic kind of cancer. Not every family it is, but they've had to be checked. So from mine literally being born, the minute, even in the delivery suite, we had paediatricians that would come and check the eyes, take the kids away, and then they had to go into general anaesthetics for years. And the boys weren't discharged from hospitals until they were about 10-year-old before they were given the all clear. And it's still with you because, they need genetic screening and things like that before they have their own kids, just to see if it's missed a generation, stuff like that. But you can't dwell on it, you've just got to sort of move forward and be positive. You've got to have a positive outlook, and that's obviously what me and Mike have talked about, you know, and that's what I'm sure it'll be for Alice, and at least it can show Mike and Emily, when obviously it's daunting for them when their daughter's just been diagnosed, and the first thing you're going to think about is what's the future going to hold, what if they're blind in one eye, will they be able to drive, will they be able to do that? For me, I've been able to do everything, and that, if I can help them see that for their daughter, then that's my job done as well.
Well, you're a great testament to people who have eye cancer, if they can be as positive and, you know, forward looking as you are, and it's great that you're starting a charity where you can share your experience through your work. I mean, that in itself for me is a blessing.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, Alison, just in your parting words before we bring Mike in and you can discuss your great charity event that you're planning to do, what closing words of advice could you give to a barber? I'm not even going to say male or female because it seems like you can help anyone.
Just be really, really passionate, work hard, motivated, practice, soak up as much as you can. Education's key. Try and get a good education if you can, and, you know, go to as many events, many shows, CPD, because you never should stop training. You know, athletes never stop training for if they've got events coming up, and in the hair and barbering industry it should be the same. Continue to train, update your skills, but motivation and commitment will get you everywhere. Yeah, so really open mindset, soak it all up.
Perfect, Alison. Thank you ever so kindly for that.
Thank you.